Oh, so it's not a Thursday stream, it's a Friday stream. Thank you, technology. So, apologies first of all for anyone that tried to attend yesterday's stream. The internet was not behaving for me, and so I thought it best to move the stream to today to make sure that we have a solid stream and not something which is going to be flaky and cut in and out. So hopefully the internet gods are with us today and everything will stay cool. So today's stream is about some of my favourite books on brand strategy, brand identity mainly, with a little bit of brand storytelling thrown in as well. Because I think you need to, well, no, I don't think, I know that you need to have quite a rounded knowledge of everything to do with brand if you are looking to be a good designer, especially when it comes to creating brand identities and logos. I've learned that over the past 20 years or so, more so the last sort of 4 to 5 years, where I've really embedded myself quite deeply into brand strategy. And it just changed everything for me. Up to that point, hey Mobius, how you doing? Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. It's a Friday, and hopefully I haven't ruined any plans that you may have had. But yeah, it's when if you're looking to be, in my opinion, a better designer, then an understanding of the strategic side of things will help you to improve, because you will be designing from a more informed place rather than just creating design because of its visual aesthetics. You will then be creating pieces of design based on deeper meaning, deeper emotion, deeper connections. And everything about today's brands is about emotion. It's about making that connection with people. We can still do features and benefits, who's the cheapest, who's the most expensive, and you can compete on those types of things. But really, these days, people are connecting more on an emotional basis, and brand strategy can help you with that. It may seem not as exciting as or creative as the design side of things, but I know that it actually, by doing a lot of the strategic work to start with, I am actually more creative when it comes to executing on the design side of it, because I have much more focus on where I need to be going with that design, and so I can explore routes which I know will have a good positive effect on the brand. Whereas maybe years ago I was just going, hey, that would be a cool idea, or that works for that industry, but that tended to be stereotypical stuff. So I've chosen, I like, there's a lot of books that I like on brand strategy and identity, but I've chosen some today, and I'm not going to give full reviews of them. I just want to basically put them in front of you and let you see which books I think, if you don't have any strategy books, these are the books that I would suggest that you go for first, because I think they will give you the best start and the best value for money, I suppose, as well. And as someone that I used to read lots and lots of books many, many years ago, I was an avid reader. I got out of practice, and so when I started, when I was in my business and I had to read business books, I just didn't want to read any business books. I just found them really hard going. But it turns out I was just reading the wrong books. I wasn't kind of finding the right authors for me. So you'll be happy to hear that the books that I've chosen, apart from maybe one, are easy to read. They're quick reads, they're easy to read, and some of them I use as reference books rather than, page 1 to page 250 or whatever. I dive in and out. So I have set up my We've tried this in the past when I was doing when I've done some kind of unboxings and things where we used my webcam and the webcam wasn't the best. So I've set up my iPhone as a secondary camera. I think it's going to still be a little bit wobbly. If I nudge the desk, it'll wobble a bit, but hopefully the quality will be better for this. So let's jump over to my webcam. So this is now looking at my desk. So let's get a little bit more organized here. Move this keyboard out of the way because I shouldn't be needing it. You can see a little bit of my microphone there. Let's get that out of the way. Okay, so, and let me know as well if you're in the chat, let me know if you have heard of any of these books before and if you own them or not. So, first book is this one, Designing Brand Identity by Alina Wheeler. This is the book that I mentioned that I reference quite a bit. This is the 4th edition of the book. There's actually a newer 5th edition where Alina just tweaks things a little bit. If you can find, if money's a bit of a problem and you find Designing Brand Identity secondhand, whether it be 3rd or 4th edition, it's worth buying. I don't think the changes are that much. I couldn't tell you what the differences are between 4th and 5th edition. I just know that, this is a really, really good book. So, Alina classes this as an essential guide for the whole branding team. And what I like about this is it's very, very in-depth. Alina's gone into great detail on the brand identity process. And so just kind of have a look here. You probably won't be able to read this, but we've got brand basics. So what is a brand? What is brand identity? Essentially, a lot of the videos that I have on my YouTube channel. Then go into what are the different brand elements, such as brand marks, word marks, letter forms, brand ideals. So she touches on things like vision, meaning, authenticity, coherence, differentiation, and brand dynamics, and then before and after. And then we've got the process that you would go through when you're creating brand identity, and you've got best practices. And as I say, you can read this from beginning to end if you want to get a good overview of those processes. Hey Alok, so which brand strategy book would you suggest for beginners? Honestly, this is a decent book. This will kind of teach you a lot. It is a very, very good book to have. But there may be some of the other books that I go through today that might be a good start for you. And I think one of them may be The Brand Gap, which we will look at today. That's one of my favorite books. This is very much one based on creating a brand identity. There's case studies in here. And Alina just goes through, there's a lot of information. And like I say, it's mostly focused around brand identity, but you can see here, I've got a page bookmarked here. And I have this page bookmarked because it's called Questions to Ponder. And that's what I love about all the different books that I'm going to show today. There's a lot of similarities, so you do get crossover. As you can imagine, they're all about strategy and identity. So you're going to get crossover. You're going to get some repetition in terms of elements of the processes, but each book that I'm going to show you has its own unique approach. The author has approached it from slightly different angles, and I love this page on in this book, which is Questions to Ponder, and these are questions that famous brand designers and bloggers ask of their clients, and it's really good when you're I see a lot of posts in groups on Facebook, from logo designers especially, saying, hey, I'm going to be working with this client. They're a veterinary practice. I've got some ideas for a logo, but what kind of questions should I be asking? These are the types of questions that will help you to dig deep. So we've got some questions here. So, basic ones like, what is your business? Who is the customer? What is the value that your brand gives to the customer? What will our business be and what should our business be? So those are two slightly different questions. We've got one here, why do we exist? What will we become? What excites our customers? So if you think about, if you have to put the customer sort of front and center. Yes, you may be designing a brand that's around helping sick animals. So as a designer, your first instinct is to think about, maybe you could do a logo with an animal in it. The really obvious things. But when you start to think about the customer, not the animal, the animal is kind of being helped, but, the owner, what is it that's going to help them? What are they feeling? What's the outcome after working with you? It's probably going to be relief, release of stress. There'll be joy if their animal, is made healthy again. So you have to bring in all of these types of questions. And by having answers to these, it can take you down different routes when it comes to the design, and it will help you to create something more unique, something which isn't the obvious. You see the logos all the time for veterinarians, which is like it might be like a mouse, a cat, a dog. As the animal sizes get bigger, and you've got that. So it's pretty obvious. Hey Sophia, thanks for joining the stream. Talking about some books today which I really, really like. So it's a fairly comprehensive book. This one, Designing Brand Identity. It's how many pages? So we're about 315 or so pages of content. We have got, like I say, there are some nice case studies in here. She looks at, the Olympics as well, the different logos for the Olympics. And as I say, there are things like, differentiation, and she shows examples and talks about examples. But it doesn't go too deep into the strategic side of things. It's more about the process of building an identity. So it's really good from that perspective. So that's book one. Let's chuck that on the floor. Book two is this one by Michael Johnson on branding in 5.5 steps. Now, this one I would say is fairly similar to the first book we've looked at. But the difference here is that what Michael does is Michael understands that, you don't have strategy over here and design over here. They need to speak to one another. There's a bridge element where strategy and design meet. And quite a lot of the time, that's sort of skipped over. You're just like, do the strategy and then do the design. And so that's where this kind of, the title of this book comes from. Branding in 5.5 steps. That half step is that bridge element between the strategy and the design. And Michael does a great job explaining these steps. Another thing I like about Michael's book is the text is really large. He's got full, there's a lot of pages which are just full page images. We've got Hillary Clinton's logo here, which is one that I've touched upon in one of my videos. So as you can see, the text is really big, lots of nice big images and examples of things. So it's actually, it's a thick book. There are so many pages in this book. I don't even know if the pages are numbered. Here we go. Yeah. So same page count as the first book, but a lot quicker to read. Much, much quicker to read. Love that there. So they've got here, legend has it that this is the first version that Nike was presented with for its famous strap line. I'm not sure if that's an urban myth or not, but it's a really good book for some case study examples, but I find this is a really, really easy read, and I love the diagrams that Michael puts in here. It really helps kind of break down some of the text pages into quick and easy to see diagrams. Now, Alina does that as well. Alina's got some good process diagrams and infographics in her book. But as I mentioned, if we go to the start of this here, let's see, where is it? It's near the front here. Yeah, so you can see here on this page where we've got 1, 2, 2.5, 3, 4, and 5. So the way that Michael breaks this down is number 1 is to investigate. find out, as much information as you can about the brand and about the customers. Then you've got to create the strategy and the narrative of the brand. Then you're bridging the gap. You're moving from the strategy side of things over to number 3, which is design. So he has a section here, 2.5, bridging the gap, where he discusses making that move, making that transition between the two. So 3 is design, 4 is the implementation of that design work, and then 5 is engage or revive. So it's kind of, what happens once everything is up and running? How do you keep that ball rolling, keep the engine running? And this is, again, another book that I reference, but this is a book that I did read front to back. I just found it really, really good, really some real useful techniques and tools that you can use when you're working with clients and having discussions with them. On this page here, for example, here's a simple 2x2 matrix that works well when quizzing not-for-profit companies. What's the problem we're here to fix? Why does that matter now? What are we doing about it? And what do we want others to do? So these are really good questions for not-for-profit companies and charities, because it's, why does that matter now? The key word there is now. The world's always changing, and if you leave things too late, then it may be too late. So why does it matter now? And what are people doing about it? And what do we want? What action do we want people to take? Answering those questions will really dig deep into the strategic side and the narrative, which is what he talks about, which will then help the designer to create the right brand identity to help mirror that message and take it forward. Things like, your typography, your color, the symbol that you make for the logo. So, like I say, much bigger text than Alina's book, but I love this one. This is just a really good book, and these two books, Branding in 5.5 Steps and Designing Brand Identity, will appear at the top of quite a lot of people's book lists when it comes to these topics. So the last of the sort of the big chunky books that I'm going to show you is this one, and it's simply called ID. And this is by an author called David Airey. And David has another really famous book called Logo Design Love, which is, funnily enough, about logo design. It's not a thick book. It's a quick read, but there's some, it's a really. If you're starting out in logo design, I would say Logo Design Love is a good book to have on your shelf, because it kind of takes you through the process of logo design with some examples. Most of these books here about strategy and identity and logos will have case studies in some way. They might be quite expansive or they might be quite small. In Logo Design Love, from what I can remember, there are a couple of case studies, but they're not that expansive. And that's where David's book here, his latest book, ID, is different, in that this is essentially a book of case studies from big brands, but not brands, not Coca-Cola, not things like that. It's that's what I love about this book. It's not the obvious brands. I say a lot of brands I'd never ever heard of before, and it takes you through the process that they went through to create the brand identity, and it's really in-depth case studies. I mean, this is quite a thick book, and I think there's it's 13 case studies. Where I sort of got a 300-page book here, and it's from interviews that he's done with the people who did these projects, and so you've got lots of different angles and viewpoints from these different designers and strategists who created these amazing brands. And what it does is it gives you an insight into that world. And it will help you with your own brand work, because you can see how people maybe hit a problem and they've worked a way around it to figure out a new direction. Some of them are more straightforward, but the execution on a lot of these are just mind-blowing and really, really interesting reads. So this isn't, an instruction manual as such, but if you've got, for example, branding in 5.5 steps, then what you can do, if you've read that and then you read these case studies, you'll start to see how these people have implemented those steps into the creation of this. I'm just going to read the back of this because the back gives you a good overview of it. So it says here, this book is ideal for students of design, independent designers and entrepreneurs who want to expand their understanding of effective design in business. Identity Designed is the definitive guide to visual branding. Written by best-selling writer and renowned designer David Airey, Identity Design formalizes the process and the benefits of brand identity design and includes a substantial collection of high-caliber projects from a variety of the world's most talented design studios. And the examples in here are great. You'll see the history and importance of branding, a contemporary assessment of best practice, and how there's always more than one way to exceed client expectations. You'll also learn a range of methods for conducting research, defining strategy, generating ideas, developing touch points, implementing style guides, and future-proofing your designs. Each identity case study is followed by a recap of the key points that are raised inside inside each study. I love this book as well. I love the fact that it's hardback. These 3 books that I've shown you first are all hardback books because, you're probably going to reference them again and again and again. You want them to be fairly substantial. I don't think these 3 books are available in soft cover. I think they are only in hardback. So, they are, I won't say expensive, but, they're going to cost you more than a soft cover book. But you can find a lot of these books secondhand. If you check on Amazon, for example, and go down below, there's usually, new and used, and you can usually find some of these for, a lot less than they are brand new. World of Books is also a good site to use if you're looking for secondhand design books. A lot of the design books that I have aren't new. I've bought them secondhand because it's just, I don't need them brand new. I'm just wanting to read the content in them. So, if I can find them in decent condition for half the price, then I'll buy a second-hand one. Okay, so moving on to smaller books now. And what do I want to go? Let's take a look. Because Alec asked what would be a good book to start with, I'm going to find that book. So, a good book to start with when it comes to strategy is this one, The Brand Gap by Marty Neumeier. This is one of the first books that I read on brand strategy, and no surprise, the reason being it's got big words. It's big, it's printed large, and like branding in 5.5 steps, a lot of the pages have full page graphics on them, so it kind of cuts down on a lot of the text that's in here. And I love the fact that what Marty's done is a lot of books, and the problem I have with a lot of business books is they have one core idea that could probably be expressed well over, a few pages or one chapter. But in order to make it a book, they stretch it out over many, many chapters to make it, 250 pages. And it's just repeating the same thing again and again. Now, some books, probably a bit like Identity Designed, have that core information, and then they're basically using case studies to show those processes and stuff. I've got no problem with that. But when it's a book that's just, going over the same thing again and again and again, after I've got the idea in the first chapter, then it's a bit of a waste. Marty's books are not like that. Marty has basically, his books are as long as they need to be, and like I say, he kind of backs them up with relevant graphics and little kind of quotations that help you to understand what you should be doing. So he's got an example here of, this is what a one-stop shop company would look like. Everything is inside. Web design, product design, exhibits, public relations, direct response, creative services, public displays. So that's a one-stop shop company. And then over the page, he talks about what a brand agency would be, where you've got the central agency, and then they partner up or work with freelancers, etc. But they're the hub. They're the ones that control it all. So this book kind of shows you different ways on how you can do, how you can run that. But what this book is similar to, again, is Branding in 5.5 Steps, in that this sort of, the gap that Marty's talking about is, again, that gap between strategy and design. And so he talks about that in this book. You can see I've got a lot of pages marked, because I do go back to this again and again. I read this book and a few of his other books fairly regularly. I'm actually trying to memorize them, because I find that when I'm working in workshops, strategy workshops, etc., the way Marty describes things is really good and really simple, and it helps my clients to understand what it is that we're trying to get to. When I'm facilitating, trying to get the answers about somebody's company or their brand, Marty tends to have a good way of approaching that. So this again is a really, really quick read. Alec, you were asking which would be a good strategy book for beginners. I would say this book. This is a really good book, and it will give you a good overview of what you should be looking for with strategy, and how that then applies itself when it comes to the design side of things. So this is actually the first in a series of books that Marty has. So you start with the brand gap, and then the next one in that series is called Zag, and it's strategy of the number one strategy of high performance brands. And essentially what this book teaches you, and again, it's written in the same way, same style, same sort of layout, only just the right amount of information. This book's more about differentiation and how to help brands stand out. So the way Marty says, when everyone's zigging in the same direction, so everyone's going in the same direction, doing the same things. If you're starting, you may be starting a new brand, or you may feel that, or you may be doing a rebrand and you feel your brand's a bit stale. So when everyone's going down the same path and doing the zig, you want to zag. You want to do something very different, something unexpected, disrupt. You might want to disrupt an industry, a bit like Uber disrupted the taxi industry. They zagged when all taxi companies were doing the same thing. They were all zigging, on the same line. Uber implemented the strategies in this book, and they zagged. So this is a really good book as a follow-on. So you learn about sort of brand strategy and the brand gap. Then you elevate your knowledge more by going to Zag. And then the third book, I suppose it's not technically a trilogy, but I look at it as a trilogy. The third book then is the brand Flip. And this book is more about how, so traditionally, brands have been in control. Old-fashioned advertising, TV advertising, newspaper advertising, magazine advertising. The brands would tell people that they were the best and they were great and we have the best stuff and you should buy our things. But that's changing. It's flipped. which is why this is called the brand flip. Brands aren't really in control anymore. The customer is in control, because we've got social media, we've got blogging, we've got things like YouTube, where people can give their opinion. And when you're looking to buy something, whether it's a product or a service, you're going to want to find reviews, and you listen to what other people are saying about brands and about products. So really, we as customers are now in control. And so this book is talking about that topic, and sort of saying, well, what can you do as a brand? How do you navigate that? If the customer's in control, how can you, what can you do? And so the brand flip discusses that and sort of gives you ideas on how, you might not control your brand, but you can definitely influence what people think about it, and what people say about it. And that's different. It's not less controlling, and like I say, it's more influencing. And so the brand flip for me, it's like a third stage. You learn about strategy, you learn how to differentiate, and then you learn about the customer's role in your brand, because customers have a big role in your brand. So these 3 books are very, very good. And then I've got 5 books of Marty's here, because I really think he knows his stuff, and so I love his books. And then I've got this one, which is called The Designful Company, and this is about how to build a culture of non-stop innovation within. So this isn't about sort of an individual and how to do a brand strategy or whatever. This is more if you have a company, or you work with people as a team, then this is going to help you sort of to remain at the forefront, and how to create ideas and grow and constantly be innovating on ideas. He talks about things that there's something called the six hat method, the 6 thinking hats. So when you're having meetings, you've got different colors of hats, and you're only allowed to do a specific thing on each one. So for example here, so the white hat, you're only allowed to be factual and informative. If you're wearing the red hat, it's emotional and intuitive ideas. Black is contrary and cautious. So let's say you're talking about, well, as a brand, we could do this. When you're wearing the black hat, you go, oh, but what if this happens? So you can be, contrary. If you're wearing the yellow hat, you have to be sunny and positive about the brand and ideas. Green, fresh and creative ideas. And blue is cool and controlled. And what happens is when you're having your meetings, you say, okay, we're wearing the red hat now, so let's talk about things relative to the red hat. Because otherwise, when you're in meetings, you might be trying to be positive about the brand, but then someone comes in and they're almost wearing the black hat, and they're going, oh, no, I don't think that's going to work because of this. And it can really pull the meeting back. But this 6 hats method allows everybody to be on the same page all throughout the meeting. And it's a really, really good way of doing it. And it can really help control a meeting, which otherwise might just be absolute mayhem. So there's some really good ideas in this for that. And then I had this kind of this bookmarked here. So it just basically says, if you want to innovate, you got to design. So design thinking and stuff as well is sort of mentioned, which is a big topic in itself. Designing is obviously thinking, and it's being creative, and people say design thinking is, it's a buzzword. It is a buzzword, it's a buzz phrase, but it is an important aspect of building a brand and building an identity, and it has a structure to it. There's a way of, sort of, you do things, you test them, you see what works, see what doesn't work, you go back to the drawing board, and you're continually testing and designing. So it's, you're thinking about design and you're testing it all the time. Like I say, I don't want to give full reviews of these. I just want to kind of touch on them to say these are books that I recommend. The last book, so if you're not a big fan of business books, this is a book by Marty again, who's written these books. But this is actually, well, he's got here, it's a business thriller. And it's a story about a fictional company, travel agency, or they book, I think we'll call them a travel agency, I suppose that's what they do. They have hotels and things, and they hit a problem. Things aren't going so well, and it's the story of one guy who's given the job to turn the brand around, but he's only given, I think it's 4 weeks to do it. And it's over Christmas, so there's people are on holiday, and it's a really, really good story, and it's you make a lot of connections with the characters, and it's done cleverly because it takes you through the process of building a brand, but it's done in a storytelling way, and I loved this. So I've got the book, but I actually bought the audio book version, so that I could listen to it when I'm going to the office and back. I'm a big fan of listening to audiobooks, but I'll then usually get a physical copy of the book so that I can make notes in and put my post-its in and bookmark pages. But this is a really, really good book. If you're not a big fan of business books and you want to kind of test the waters and sort of find out a little bit about, well, what is brand strategy, what's involved in it, and Scramble actually implements these four, basically implements the knowledge in these 4 books through storytelling in this one book. So if you're not sure, you could always start with Scramble and listen to a really good, well-written story, and then go and get these books and dive deeper into each of the elements on that. So you can tell I'm a big fan of Marty. He's a really good writer. I've actually, had the privilege to be on some training courses with Marty in the room, and he's just such a nice guy and really knows his stuff. He's worked for, the biggest companies in the world. He's been in the same room as people like Bill Gates and things like that, Steve Jobs, and he knows what he's doing. So if you pick up a book by Marty Neumeier, you're gonna walk away with some really top class knowledge. Oh, right. Not got too many more books to go. Don't want to keep you too long. So talking about stories, this is another one which people either really like or really dislike. I'm probably on the fence with it because I see this as a useful book to read, but the downside of this book is that I feel like the author, Donald Miller, he's constantly sort of pushing you to courses and things that he's done. Storybrand is a website. You can look it up, storybrand.com, and they basically, there's 2 things they do. They teach people how to become Storybrand coaches, but they can also help brands get better with their messaging to their customers. And so there's quite a bit of, sort of pushing down that line. But building a Storybrand is essentially, I think it's a 7-step process that they have to help you engage better with customers. So this isn't about this isn't about creating brand identity as such, or I suppose it's more linked to brand strategy. But this is if, for example, you're building a website and you need to connect with your customers, this is a really good book to do that, because it will help you. It's about making your customer the hero of the story. Most websites are all about me. And when I say me, I mean the company whose website it is. It's usually like, aren't we great? Our services are brilliant. Buy our stuff. Building a story brand helps flip that around, and you start to think more about the customer as the hero, and you talk about the problems that they're having and how you can help to solve those problems, and the journey that they will go through, and the difference that it will make to their lives. Now, it might be that you're selling dog food, but building a story brand and storytelling is still key and pivotal to that, because what you're trying to do, and I said this at the start of the stream, is that you're trying to connect emotionally with your customer. And what could be more emotional than someone who has a pet? So you can craft your messaging around that connection that they have with their pet. Now, I've not long finished working with a client, and they are a pet food company, and it's not quite launched yet, but we spent a lot of time looking at messaging frameworks and creating avatars that they could use for when they're creating content. They've got this person that they would be writing the content to. So building a story brand is good in that respect. It will help you to understand how you should be communicating your brand to your customers. So as a side note to that, there's this book here by Matt Davies, and it's called Storyategy. Now, it's kind of similar to building a story brand, but without a lot of the kind of the pushing to courses and things. You can see here that, if I hold these up, Matt's book's about half the thickness of that. And I've met Matt a couple of times, and I know Matt's a big fan of Marty Neumeier and Marty's books. And so what I get from Matt's book is a much condensed version of this that just goes into the real stuff that's going to be useful to you. But the difference with Matt's book is Matt's a brand strategist, and so Matt ties in the storytelling elements and talks about it in a way that connects it to brand strategy better, in my opinion. So I really like it. Again, it's a quick read. You could read it in a day, but you will go back to it and you will reference it again. I think I've talked about Matt's book before on my channel, but here's Matt's 6 steps here. Sketch the plot and set the scene, design your audience, discover your archetypal characters, define the evil, and that's kind of the same in here as well. You're basically on what's the evil, what's the bad thing that we're trying to overcome. Put your brand story together and then set a strategy for living that story. And that last one is a key one. You want to have a strategy as to why, how you're going to do this so that it actually fits in with everything else that you're doing, the visuals and all the strategic stuff. So this is, so these are both good books. I would say I probably like Matt's book better because I'm a brand strategist and I understand a lot of the elements that's in it. I would say building a story brand is probably going to be better for someone that's coming at this, strategy, storytelling side of things completely brand new. This is probably a good introduction to it, but that's not to say that you couldn't just, go straight to this book as well. Matt makes it very clear, and it's very easy to read and understand. And there's sections on what the different archetypes are as well. So these are about storytelling. So I want to throw that in because, storytelling is key these days when you're trying to create emotional connections. Best way to do that is to tell stories, stories that work and, take people on a journey, the ups and downs, and make them feel connected to your brand. Sorry if I keep pulling these out of camera shot. I keep forgetting where the camera is. And then last book, okay? So thank you for sticking with me. Is this little book here, and it's called Do Purpose by David Hyatt. Why brands with a purpose do better and matter more. It's a tiny little book. It may look thick, but again, running theme. There's not much text in it. and there's lots of double page spreads of photographs. What I love about this book is, one, it is super quick to read, but it's each kind of double spread here is self-contained. So it's, a little, you could almost read one a day and take that as a lesson for that day. And purpose is a big thing. Again, it's about emotion. If you have purpose, and it's about more than making profit, more than making money. If your brand stands for something more, then people will connect with that. Some people won't connect with that, but that's okay. You can't, you're not going to serve everyone in the world. There's 7-8 billion people in the world. How many people do you need to actually work with? So not everyone's going to like you, but the book's sort of broken down into sort of 5 chapters, or 6 chapters actually. Purpose, time, ideas, brand, people, and you. And each section just has, like, say, these little things in it. I love this quote by Bill Withers, the singer. You can't get to wonderful without passing through all right. And for me, that's a great analogy for when I'm sketching logo designs, is you've got to get through the stuff it's all right, it's okay, in order to get to wonderful. And the problem is, a lot of people stop at all right. They're just like, they're drawn away and they go, yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I'm going to present that. I think that's good. But you need to work through that. And the same can be said probably for a lot of different, not just design, but a lot of different areas. If it's all right, just keep pushing. There's probably something wonderful on the other side of that if you just think about it from a different angle, different perspective. And all the books that I've shown prior to this one will help you with your thinking and how you can come up with ideas which are more than all right, and they are wonderful. That's the only one that I've actually got bookmarked in here. But there are just, it's just 1 page or 2 pages with some amazing actionable tips. I can't remember who recommended this book to me, but I'm forever grateful for them for doing it. Things like, if you want to do more, then rest. If you're constantly pushing. I'm at the end of 2 weeks holiday. I go back to the office on Monday. I spent a week at a music festival last week. Loved it. Still suffering for it. It's kind of why I needed the extra week. Getting a little bit old for music festivals, but I just needed that to recharge my batteries. Hey Nick, thanks for joining. I don't know if you've just joined. I've just finished going through, finishing going through the books that I recommend. You could always catch it on the replay. It's just books that I find are really, really useful for brand strategy and identity design. Really, really good and useful things that will help you to improve if that's the area of work that you're interested in. Along with one sort of non-fiction-y type business book called Scramble, which is an awesome book. So that's my book list. If you want to buy any of those books, let me see if I've got this here. Yeah, so the link that I've just put on screen, which is kit.co/pixelscall, will take you to my kit page. And I've got a section in there for brand and books on brand and branding, and the books that I've mentioned today are all in there, and it'll give you links to various places that you can buy them. There's also, I've got another couple of sections in my kit page on, I think, logo design books. And also like the gear that I use for video and stuff. It's just handy because I get people asking all the time, what's a good logo book? What's a good brand book? What camera are you using? So having the kit page just makes it so much easier to say, like, just go over there. Everything I use and everything that I like is on there, and I'm constantly adding to it. So if I find a new book or something, then I will add it in there so that people can just click on it and buy a copy if they want. Okay, So let me just bring my keyboard back into view. Let's see. So Sinless saying, thanks for sharing. Oh, you're welcome. That's why I'm here. Just want to help, want to share what I know with everyone, so that we can all get better at what we do. Nick saying, these could definitely help me with my new client. I'll be sure to catch up with the replay. They will help. They will help. One thing I will say as well is that I mentioned before, I'm not an avid book reader. I sometimes struggle to get into the mood to read a book, but I do know that when I get into it and I start reading and I start getting into the chapters, that I do feel invigorated and I come away with new ideas. The problem I have is that I then get caught up with work and that dies away. For me, the best way that I learn is through workshops and teaching in person. So I like to go to conferences, and I like to go to seminars and training workshops. I've done Marty Neumeier's Level C, which is to train people in brand strategy. There will eventually be 5 levels of that. There's 3 at the moment. I've only done level 1. I would like to do level 2 and potentially level 3, but I just haven't had the time to do that. And I'm also a big advocate of Stephen Hourahan's course, Brandmaster Secrets, and he now also has Brandmaster Workshops. So for anyone that's doing logo design and wants to get into brand strategy and become, really implement brand strategy into their process, Brandmaster Secrets is an amazing thing to do. I have interviewed Stephen quite a few months ago now about Brandmaster Secrets, because I want to do a video where I just give my thoughts and an overview on what I've learned and how it's helped my business. And Stephen was kind enough to do an interview with me. Stephen's actually based in Australia, so it was a bit of a late night interview for me. It was midnight where I interviewed him, so hopefully I'm not too tired on that, but hopefully I'll get that video up soon. And also on a future live stream, I'll probably touch upon the Brandmaster Secrets. It's a difficult one to kind of get into because I don't want to show, because it's a paid for course, so I can't really show much of it on video or on live stream, because it's Stephen's hard work, and I want to make sure that people pay for that, so that he gets he's compensated for all the hard effort that he's put in. But suffice to say, it's an amazing course, and I will get some information up on that. So next saying, one thing he could do is read more. I used to read all the time, but mostly non fiction books, fantasy books and stuff like that. But I could read really fast, could read books really, really fast. Now I'm out of practice, and I find myself getting distracted and having to read the same paragraph again and again because it's just going in one ear and out the other. I find my brain runs too fast to focus on reading. I prefer learning through podcasts, conversations, and workshops. Yeah, I'm the same. That's exactly how I learn. And it's one of the reasons as well that I'm doing things like this, and why I do my YouTube videos, because I know that I learn, if I want to learn something. So in the last few months, I've been doing 3D printing, and just this week I got a new 3D printer, a resin printer, which is a different type of 3D printing compared to my current print, the printer I already had. And first thing I do is go to YouTube, and just I'm struggling with something, go to YouTube and watch a video, because I find that that's how I learn. But some people learn better through reading, and so blogs are good for them and books are good for them. And interestingly, that you say you learn through podcast conversations. I can listen to audiobooks, but with podcasts, and I tend to zone out. Unless it's really gripping me, I tend to zone out, and then I they could be speaking for 15 minutes, and I just don't know, I can't remember what it is that they've said, and I have to go back and listen to it again to catch up. But that's the thing, everyone's style is different. There's something for everyone, and that's the reason I've started transferring a lot of my videos into blog posts for my website, because I'm aware that some people just don't want to watch videos, and they would rather read the content. So I'm now creating blog posts to try to give people, the choice. The one thing I haven't got is a podcast. I've thought about it, but it's another thing that I would have to do, and time is precious. But maybe I would do one in future. So I promised that I would do a couple more logo reviews from people that have sent in logos to us. And I say us because I want you to kind of join in and give your feedback on these as well. So I'm going to have a quick drink, sorry. So we've had a couple of people send in some more logos. One thing I will say for anyone who's kind of watching is that I've still got some logos sitting in reserve. So I just want to say now that on the next call, I will be reviewing a logo that's been submitted by Amber Grady. So Amber, if you're watching this replay, your logo will be on the next Rock Your Brand stream. And we'll be revisiting a logo that was submitted previously and reviewed by Matt Steeker. Matt sent in a logo and really it wasn't working and he needed to go back to the drawing board. So what Matt's done is he's gone away and done that, and he's sent in an update. So I thought it'd be fun to look at where Matt's taken the logo, and we can review that and give feedback on where he's at with it now. So again, that will be on the next live stream. Next saying, YouTube is absolutely my number one learning platform. It takes a while to sift through the snake oil gurus, but I've got some really great channels I follow. Yeah, you're gonna find that in all every industry topic. You're going to get the snake oil people, give you some surface level, and then try to sell you a big ticket thing if you want more information. That's fine if that's what you want to do. Again, that works for some people, but I think if you're going to sell training or workshops off the back of it, then I think the free content that you give has to have value as well. Not just a teaser. Hook people in up to the point of giving them, let's say, the answer or the solution, but suddenly that's then gated behind a fee. It's not really how I work. I just talk about what I know, but I do know that I am working, and I've mentioned this as well. I am working on some more cohesive course type structure where I'll take the knowledge that I have and I will deliver that in a way that's more structured and will help take people through, identity design strategy work, and help them to level up that way. And there will be a fee for that. It's just, we have to, and that will, allow me to then continue to make content available for free as well for people who want to just, consume it that way. That's just how it works. So let me jump over to desktop. Okay, so I'm not sure how the colors will come through. Hopefully it come through good enough at your side, folks. So this is a logo that's been submitted. I think it's pronounced Sushant, and it's for the brand Luscious Magic. This is a logo for a client. That's what they said anyway. It's not a personal project. Industry sector is food. This is all the information that Sushant has provided. Target audience, not specific to any particular age group. It's meant for people looking for ready-to-cook snacks without compromising on nutritional values. Brand personality friendly. Brand quality is quick, nutritional, and tasty. Other information. I had focused on literals of the brand name whilst designing this logo. To represent the magic part, I included a magic wand which is being shown as a spatula, and to represent the word luscious, I chose a suitable font. I also wanted to avoid typical colours which are used on food packets, such as red, yellow and green, hence went with orange and a darker shade of violet. It's almost like a deep purple. So, right. My input then. So I suppose when I first saw it, I did get that it was related to food. Because I saw this sort of bowl shape. But at the same time, I'm not sure it's that successful in, I have to think sometimes when I'm looking at something from the point of view of a designer and not a consumer. So I have to try to switch my brain into consumer mode. If this was on a packet on a shelf, what would I think? Obviously, it was in the food aisle, then I'm going to presume it's food. And this is where I've said this before. Sushant, you've basically just sent me the logo. So I'm just giving critique on the logo. What would have been great would have been to see examples of how you were going to use this logo on food packaging. Because I'd want to see how you were going to integrate this with food photography. How are these colors going to work on the packaging with food ingredients? Food packaging can be quite busy. You've got to get a lot of information on there, and so I'm just I'm curious as to how that might work, and I'm going to ask anyone who's kind of watching at the moment, please feel free to give your thoughts on these logos in the chat, and I'll read them out and we can discuss what other people are thinking about them. So one of the first things I want to touch upon is the brand personality of friendly. So I would say, yeah, you're probably, it does have that vibe to it because you've got, this sort of handwritten typography in there, which gives across a more sort of friendly vibe to it. It's rounded, it's soft. So I would say there, it does give off a friendly vibe. The brand qualities of quick, nutritional, and tasty. That I'm not too sure about. And I think that then leads me on to the colours. Now, you've said that you don't want to you want to avoid typical colours which are used on food packets. And then you said you've went with orange and a darker shade of violet. Why would be my question. Why have you gone for orange and violet? What is the representation there? Now, from my knowledge, I would say when I think about magic, especially sort of when it comes to brand archetypes, like the magician and stuff like that, purple can be seen as sort of mysterious and magic. Purple is also seen as luxurious and high-end. So Cadbury's chocolate use purple for their main brand color because they want to be seen as an upper-end quality chocolate manufacturer. I wouldn't say they are like top-end. They're sort of, mass market, but they're trying to get that across, that sort of velvety feel, regal, luxurious. But I think purple can also be used for magic as well. So I do actually think the purple fits with the word magic. I'm not too sure about the orange. I'm not sure where that comes in. Orange is sort of seen as a creative color. And maybe that fits. Maybe the creativity fits with the food, because it says it's ready to cook snacks, which I'm not sure if people have to make the snacks up like a meal. So you've got is it Hello Fresh, or am I mixing up some of those brands where they deliver you the ingredients in a box. And it's the ingredients for a specific meal, and then you make that HelloFresh. I think it's HelloFresh. Then you make that meal. So I could see that sort of working. That the magic wand basically being over the box of ingredients, and ta-da! You make a meal out of these ingredients like magic. So there are elements of this which I like, but it's just not quite working for me in some ways, and I can't quite put my finger on it. One thing that I would say is I'm not sure if you need those container bits unless that's meant to be like a dish, so you've kind of got a lot going on, you know, if it is, you've got these elements, you've got the bowl here, you've got the magic wand. I think I would like to see a way of so Nick said start by removing the boomerangs, which is exactly what I just kind of suggested as well, because I don't think they add anything really. Let's just make a copy of that and bring that down. So let's just look at this. And so we've got luscious magic. So we have the word magic, and then we've got the magic wand and the sort of the little sparkly magic dust going on in the bowl. But is there a way that the magic wand could have been made to look more like a cooking utensil? People understand that a classic magic wand does look like that. It's more like the longest part of it's black and then it's got the white tip on it. Is there something that could have been done, maybe with this end that made it look more like a cooking utensil, or maybe there was two, a spatula and a fork or something, and because the magic bit lets you know this is magic. So if you had those and you had sparkles, people would associate that with the magic. I'm just wondering if I see this name Luscious Magic on its own, is it magic? Is it magic tricks? Is that what it is? It doesn't. There's nothing really other than this looks like a bowl. But magicians pull stuff out of hats and bowls and things. So I'm just not sure if it gets across the food element for me. Let's see what people are saying. The intersection of the wand and the L needs more white space. Shorten the wand a bit. And Mobius is saying, I think if this is on a food package, then there will be a lot of info on each package. Containing the logo may actually work for that purpose. I think the logo will need to be in a container. This is why it'd be good to have seen what Sushant was thinking about in terms of packaging, because we could then sort of look at that and see how he envisaged, or she, sorry, how they envisage this working. Mobius is saying, I think this is a good submission, but per our usual conversation, it feels a bit busy. Yeah, like I say, I don't think this is not a bad logo. There are elements of it that, again, maybe don't kind of, meant for people looking for ready-to-cook snacks without compromising on nutritional values. I'm not sure where that comes in, but that's fine. It's, because logos don't have to get across everything. I'm wondering is there going to be a tagline that mentions food, that mentions that it's ready to cook snacks without compromise. Something which sort of says what it is. But yeah, I think there's, I'm not going to start drawing in here, but there's just elements of this where I think it could just be polished up a little bit, maybe a little bit more exploration. In terms of the colors, again, I would like to know why you've gone with the orange. Greens and purples, could work, but I just want to kind of know the reasoning behind that, other than it being not typical. Sometimes it's good to be typical, because the reason that those colors work is because people associate them with food, and it whets the appetite. So there are sometimes good reasoning to stick with the crowd in terms of colors. But then if you have a good enough reason to differentiate and use colors which really people do not expect to use with food, then you can go down that route. So a little bit more of an explanation around why you've chosen orange. I think really that's my biggest thing is that orange color. And yeah, it's probably a little bit busy with all the elements that are going on. And just remember that your logo will go down to quite small sizes. So you want to, this goes down fairly small. I think you kind of lose what the magic wand is a little bit, but overall, it's a a decent attempt on this. Nick's just added in psychology is a big player when designing on a product driven brand. It is, and especially when it comes to food, you want. I mean, the logo's not what you're selling; it's the product, So this is where I'm kind of have a bit of a loss, and I would love for Sushant to come back with some product mock-ups to show us how this would fit with that. But psychology and emotion, which is what we talked about in the first half of this stream, is really key, and you want that to work. The word luscious, just thinking that it's a good mouthfeel word for me anyway. Luscious, and it sort of could relate to food. But I'm looking at these. I don't really look at these logos. The submissions come in, and I throw them onto onto an Illustrator document, put in the text, and then I close it because I don't want to look at it too much. I want to kind of go through it with you guys. So I'm sort of evaluating it as we go go through the stream. But in a way, we've said take away the boomerangs, but in a way, the boomerangs they actually help contain this in a way that makes sense. Like I said, I thought this could almost be like a plate here. When I take them away, there's something, the logo looks a bit unbalanced. And I think, the boomerang sort of shapes, the swooshes are something that will sort of usually, they'll instantly date a logo, sort of like the early the 1990s, early 2000s, where people were putting swooshes around the edges of logos. I hold my hands up. I've got a few logos in my portfolio from those times where I've got those swooshes on there. We've all done it, and my instinct is to say, "Oh, get rid of these," but then I actually feel that they work in terms of the logo that you've put together. They work as a container that's holding this in, and it makes it feel like this is luscious magic, food on a plate type thing. So yeah, I think the colour's the biggest thing for me, and I would love to see this on some packaging. So yeah, I think as Moby just said, it's a good submission. It's just that you're going to lose. You've got a really thin white line on here, which obviously is to reflect. You need to think about these things. They'll disappear at small sizes, so have a think about that. Which is why maybe if you make, you've maybe already tried doing utensils, but it would be good to kind of, I think bring it more in line with the food type thing. But I could just kind of witter on. I've kind of dried up a little bit in terms of the feedback on this, but overall, it's pretty good. I just think there are some elements of it where you need to think about that, as Nick has said, the psychology of it all. Nick's also just said, I'd be curious to know if the purpose of them was because of that balance issue. I'd make the angle of the wand a mirror of the L stroke. That would raise it and help. All right, so you kind of, this isn't one piece, so I wouldn't be able to do that. So do you mean have it like mirrored that way as the stroke, or sort of more like the same angle but just sort of coming down? I don't know. Mobius saying, this one is interesting because of the brand itself. Does it stand out? Should it be modern or imply old-fashioned cooking in a new way? Will this stand out in a sea of logos? Great one. That's it. It's we talk about differentiation all the time, and there is something about this when I look at things like HelloFresh and stuff like that, it's very modern. Usually, there's usually a lot of sans serif stuff, clean. They'll use bright colors. This is different, and I need to see it on packaging. I need to see it in use. So anyone that's watching this and they want to submit their logos, submit your logo, but also submit how you see it being used, because it will help tell the story for the rest of us, and we can then make a decision and go, yeah, that's going to work. That's really good. If you're going to be looking at in a supermarket, you've got a sea of shelves of food products, that's going to stand out. That's going to grab my attention. And that's the first key thing that you're going to have to do, is grab the attention of someone. It's such a cutthroat industry. But there's definitely something in this. And I think with a little bit of work, and just a little bit more explanation around things, I think it will work. And Nick, just to say, you've said there with the wand, same angle, just flipped on the y-axis. What I've done in that top one there does, I think, help bring it in a little bit. It's a small thing, but if we can't, let's do it on the one that doesn't have, it doesn't have the boomerangs around it. Really, it's about getting it. There's a balance issue with this. I'm put that at the back. So it's about getting, if we can balance up the logo so that it doesn't really need to have the boomerangs, then I think that will, kind of help a little bit. So we can get it so it's sitting maybe more of a rectangular shape, whereas right now without the boomerangs it's going up into this sort of angle. But if we're going to be looking at food packaging and stuff, then maybe we could be doing something. I mean, it doesn't have to be like a straightforward rectangle. You can have it so that it's in a sort of an interesting shape as well, but you just want to kind of have it so it's if you're going to have it as a label or something, what kind of shape would you have it in? But yeah, I think work on it a little bit more. Here, I don't know if this is a font that you've typed out or if you've worked on this by hand, but I think some of it could be worked on. I'm not. I get one other thing that maybe do we need the kind of reflections? Are they adding anything, or again, is it just more noise that really is isn't helping things? Maybe it does help a little bit, but there's something about the words as well the letters need a bit of work, because you've kind of got. I would like to see a little bit more sort of uniformity. I mean, I'm looking at these S's here. I've used I had to use image trace on this because it was a JPEG, so the image trace may have done something to the letters. But I was just wondering if this, these S's were the same or not, whether that was typed out or not. Next saying, adding noise and scaled down food packaging will be small. Maybe you have one large version with the extra details. Yeah, you're going to have what's the word? I want to say transitional. basically, yeah, you know, a less detailed version of your logo as things get smaller, because you're going to lose those details anyway. So it's always a good idea to have, you know, to have that. But there's definitely, this could definitely, you know, would definitely stand out. I just think, you know, working on it a little bit to pull things sort of a little bit, you know, that's no good. You know, a little bit closer into things. But yeah, let's move on from this one. Susan, you've got something really good to work with here. Think just, you know, a little bit of polish, and maybe get back to me with your thoughts on you know, the color, why you've gone for orange, and be great to see some examples of food packaging. So let's jump on to the next one. Okay, so we have Chubby Meows. Didn't get much information with this one. It's from Suhaib. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. I'm terrible with pronouncing names. Suhaib. Brand name's Chubby Meows. Industry sector, pet care / vet / cat food. Target audience, cat owners / pet owners. Brand personality, friendly, caring, and helpful. Brand qualities, reliable, authentic, and trustworthy. Okay, so first thing that kind of stood out for me was, now I've traced this in Illustrator to turn it into vectors so we can kind of select things, but even on the sort of the JPEG version, I didn't feel that these shapes were drawn particularly well. Maybe you wanted to have that sort of a hand-drawn look, you know, not geometrically perfect. And, you know, but next to it, you've got, you know, it's fairly geometrically perfect type. One of the things that really stood out straight away was this E. I don't know, it seemed a bit out of place for some reason. And it's, you know, tilted at an incredibly sharp angle. I probably would have preferred it to actually just be like a normal E. I just found it really distracting, and almost didn't read it as an E at first. I know it says meows, but I didn't read it as an E at first. So I would, you know, I'd be more tempted to have it like that. We've got this brown full stop at the end. Kind of curious as to why that is there and in that color. Let's just go back to here and go, okay, so it's called Chubby Meows. So it's people associate that with cats. It says pet care, vet, cat food. So I'm presuming it is aimed at specifically, you know, as we say here, cat owners. You have put cat owners / pet owners, but I'm going to presume it is all about cats. I can maybe see like a sort of an abstracted cat, if it's like the cat's head looking straight on and you've got, you know, sort of the two cat ears and then the cat's face. But because we've got this as a separate shape and in a different color, it kind of takes away from that. You know, so I'm not entirely sure with that one. You know, probably if it was more, you know, playing on the cat ears thing a little bit more, then I think that would probably help. You know, like, so, you know, it's just, you know, trying to deal with this. But, you know, sort of using the cat ears thing here would work. I'm not sure about that symbol. I'm just going to make this so we've got a copy of it as normal. Friendly, caring, and helpful. I would say overall, because you've got, again, rounded typography lends itself to being friendly and warm. So you could say caring and helpful would fall into that. The colors, the blue, lends itself to sort of that caring, protection, cool, calm side of things, so that works. But then you see the brand qualities are reliable, authentic, and trustworthy. I'm not entirely sure, friendly, caring, and helpful with reliable, authentic, and trustworthy. I'm not sure about where the authentic stuff, but again, we're just looking at the logo, so a lot of the other brand qualities can come through in photography, can come through in your marketing copy, it can come through in other other ways of design and communication. So it's not all going to come through in the logo. Nick's saying it's similar font to Chewy. I think, yeah, so having just done a brand project for a pet food company, then yes, it is probably, let's see, similar, because Chewy is a rounded, I think they've got a rounded font, haven't they? Chewy brand logo. Yeah, so they've got a rounded logo as well. And interestingly, now that you've said that, Nick, so if we take, if I just copy this, hopefully it'll come across. If we take this, then, and as you had this, Suhaib, you had this E up here, then it is quite similar, isn't it? To Chewy, this rounded. Now, in the submission, Suhaib said that this is a client project, not a personal project. So that being the case, it's not bang on. I don't know if Chewy actually use a symbol these days. Sorry, I've not changed my screen back, have I? So this is the Chewy logo dropped in next to Chubby Meows, or even in the middle. And you can see how the E, this is how the E was originally. That's part of the logo up here. And it really is mirroring this a little bit too closely, especially considering it's in exactly the same industry sector. The only thing is, all you would really need to do is you would just need to kind of move move these around a little bit. And you'd be sort of in the same sort of space as Chewy. Now, one of the difficult things of creating logos is that, it will remind people of other logos. But when you're in the same industry, in the same sector, if your logo is making somebody think of a bigger brand's logo, you're potentially losing yourself business, because you're making them think about another brand. I touched upon that in a video about differentiation, where if you're going to start a new soft drinks company, you're probably not going to want to use red and white for your brand colors, or on a script font, because it will just remind people of Coca-Cola, because Coca-Cola are so big that it's ingrained in people's visual memory. Be the same here for pet owners who know Chewy. You're kind of treading a fine line. It's not exactly the same. If you'd gone for a lowercase m, then I would have said you're too close. You're too close. So Nick's saying, you're just reestablishing the other brand's presence. Is all you're doing. You're basically helping them. and not helping your own brand. And you've got blue as well. It's a different blue, different hue, but it's still blue. And if I move this over here, far away from it, people would see that as a very similar one. It's only when you move it really close you go, it's a bit different. But over here, it's not that different. Nick's saying he would fully have believed that Chubby Meows was a sub-brand of Chewy. I think as well, you've got the ch, because you've got Chubby and Chewy, and then you've got this E in the meows with the blue. It's treading on that. And this is, Nick, if you hadn't been on this call, I even though I've just finished like a 5-6 month brand project where Chewy is one of the, we looked at them as, what are they doing well, what they're not doing so well, what can we learn, what can we not. This never popped into my head. So this is where having everyone on the live chat really can help these logo critiques move in a very different direction, because we're all seeing different things, and we all recollect stuff differently and make different connections. But it's sort of, now that it's been mentioned, I can now see all of the connections between Chewy and Chubby Meows. And if a client came to me and said, "Hey, we're doing cat food and pet food, we've come up with this idea," and they'd kind of, because I get it all the time, "Oh, we've got this, could you make, can you tidy this up for us?" I would probably advise them not to proceed, because it's very close with it. There's probably simple things that could be done to help mitigate anything which is too close. But yeah, it's like, I think the symbol needs some work. I think it's abstract, and I actually don't think it needs that much work. I kind of like this shape. I like the idea of this being like a really simplified silhouette of a cat. But now that I say that, I've now got in my head, there's a cat food brand which has that sort of shape. Is it Whiskas? No, it's not Whiskas. I'm sure there's a... Oh no, it is Whisk. I think it is Whiskas. Yeah. So I'm sort of... It's reminded me of... I don't know if you guys can see this on here. See if I can... Yeah, here. So let's go to this. It's not exactly the same. I hate these websites where they have download buttons everywhere, because they're trying to trick you into downloading something which isn't the vector file. So let's just bring that over. So it's not the same. It's not the same, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about with... oops, sorry. You can kind of see what I'm talking about with the silhouette of the cat ears. I think you could still do something like that based on this shape here. So they've got, more of an oblong with the pointed ears coming out, whereas this would be much, this wouldn't be rounded. This would be much sort of deeper in. It's kind of hard to do this with this. I think it's going to move. Yeah, I thought I was going to do that. I just want to pull these down. Yeah, that's not going to work either, is it? Terrible. Right. I think you get the idea. It's really badly done. But yeah, it's about kind of bringing, this sort of ear idea in, and making a sort of an abstracted sort of cat silhouette. Terrible. And you could probably still do it with two colors, but you might want to kind of do it with a slightly, the color which is closer to this one. That would help, tie it in. But yeah, you're going to have to be very careful that you're not too close to chewy with this. And that's really kind of, it's taken it on a, I was looking at a direction with this. You have got, you did supply some other images as well, actually, now that I remember. So you kind of got, the black and white logo on black and white. So these are still the JPEGs. So you can see here, these shapes are strange. Maybe I'm not seeing something. I'm trying to look at this shape, and I'm trying to see if it's like a neg. Now that I'm seeing sort of it, in black and white, and the white on the black, my eyes are trying to make it into something, like it's meant to be something, and I'm just wondering if I'm missing something obvious. Could it? So now could it be that this is? I'm going to draw some shapes on here. Could it be that that's meant to sort of be like the cat's head, and then this is its body with its tail going up? I don't know. Maybe it's a stretch. So the cat's head would be. So that's the. Cat's face. Maybe it's a stretch. I don't know. All those people. Let's see what we're writing here. Garfield should absolutely be the reference for Chubby and Mobius. I think of sailing or fish before cats with that logo in its current state. Yeah, it's like a boat, isn't it? It's like a boat with a sail. You could imagine if you sort of had like waves. There's just something not quite right about the whole thing. It's not working. It's not getting across the right sort of message that I think we want it to have. And then I noticed down here that actually in some of them the E isn't turned up, and you don't have the full stop, and the text isn't centered. So I don't know if these are like previous versions. This one here on the bottom right definitely makes it look like a ship, because this looks like a horizon line and it's on water. And then you've got one stop pet care. That Chubby Meows, again, it's very much directed at, it sounds like cats. So one stop pet care, maybe one stop cat care. I'm not sure. It's just, it's confusing me. Which obviously, isn't not a good sign. But I've done, again, I've done logos which are abstract, abstracted logos, and the logo does not tell me, or doesn't really say what it is that the company does. But generally that's been a planned decision, and the wider branding makes sure that it gets across what it is that they do. The same issue that we had with Luscious Magic, I haven't seen how any of this has been used on any materials, so I can't really see how you're going to do that. But like I say, the only reason I'm kind of thinking cat is because you've got, the meows bit in here, and so I'm trying to see cat ears and see whether that is a connection that's in here. I've just deleted that, haven't I? So Nick's saying he gets more of a chubby feeling from the Whiskers one. Yeah, I think you've got that kind of wide face sort of, and it also gives it like, it's not saying fat cat, but it's got the sort of the 3D element to it, but it's kind of getting across healthy. It's well fed. It works for that, and you've got the Whiskers in text going across it. I think this actually, I mean, if we look at whiskers, so if we've got friendly, caring, and helpful, so that the actual symbol has that friendly, rounded, pussycat kind of look to it. And then you've got this this type actually, for me, fits with the reliable, authentic, trustworthy. It's got that sharpness to it. It's more sort of old-fashioned, so it gives a sense of heritage in a way, so that it's like been around a while, so they're not going to go anywhere, so you've got that reliable authenticity and the trustworthy side to it. So I think Whiskers has the right mix of what you're looking for, Suhaib, in terms of the personality and qualities, along with the very obvious cat, and Whiskers is a play on whiskers. You're trying to get there with that, but I just don't think you've quite got it there yet. And as we've kind of now discovered, it's very close to the Chewy logo, which really you want to stay away from. And one of the first things you can do is to kind of look at different colors. You don't want to go into, you don't want to then jump across and start using Whiskers colors, because that would then you're moving sort of into their playground. That's not coming out quite as dark as I thought. That's sort of taking into Whiskers colors, but not as, because it's rounded and stuff, it's not directly mirroring Whiskers. I think the problem you have with the version you sent to me is because of the colors and the text. It's pretty much mirroring Chewy in a lot of ways. So I'd say there's something that can be done with a symbol here, which is abstracted, silhouette-ish, a bit like the Whiskers one, but you could do it so it looks different. I'm really not sold on the name. I don't know about the chubby meows thing, because when I think about if you take a really chubby cat to a vet, the first thing they'll say is you need to put your cat on a diet. You need to stop feeding it so much. So chubby meows may give off like a chubby cat, cuddly vibe, but in connection with pet care and vet, it's the wrong message, if you see what I mean. So again, it's thinking about the overall brand. You've got you might have a name which you think, that's really cool, that's funny or humorous. Then you've got to have the logo as well, and then you've got your marketing. How does this all work together? Now, in some of the previous logo reviews, some people have sent in, mock-ups showing, and it really helps to build that picture, and we can see how it works. And those ones tended to be fairly successful because we can see that the designer has thought past the logo. It can be very easy to come up with a logo. The difficulties then can start when you try to implement that logo into marketing materials, into your branding. And you're like, how's that going to fit? How are we going to do that? Or how's this going to work with this type of photography? What kind of photography we're going to use? Or are we going to use illustrations? All of this stuff comes into play. And actually, sometimes when you start thinking about that, it affects the logo design, and you have to go back and tweak it and change it so that it will work in the ways that you need it to for the brand. So I think I'm going to have to do something on the submission page for the logos that says, when you hit submit, have you submitted mock-ups? And if you haven't, then the logo doesn't go through, because I do think it's going to help us all to see things like that, to see how the logo is shown in use. Nick's saying that if the brand is an American brand, it'll work just fine. Getting into stereotypes now. But yeah, it's I think I've said on the submission that mock-ups would be helpful, but I think I might need to get to the point where it's like, okay, if you're going to submit your logo, submit the logo, but we must see it in use as well, because it will really help us to see what you're thinking about it. How are you taking it a step further? Because it may solve some of the issues that we're having, like Luscious Magic. How is that going to work on food packaging? Oh, that's a really clever solution. Or maybe that's not quite working, so we can give some feedback on that. And by giving feedback on the food packaging, we can then say, right, so here's how the logo would maybe need to be adjusted in order to make that more effective on the food packaging. It all works. It's one big ecosystem. The logo doesn't exist on its own. It's not just going to be sitting on a white page all the time. And that's what I find difficult. And that's one of the reasons as well I asked to get, as much information about the brand as well, because having some of that can let us tie that to the logo, and then that can then tie to the product. So kind of, I wouldn't say tricky reviews this week. Luscious Magic, I think, when I go back to it, it definitely has really good potential to be, to be worked into something that would stand out. The Chubby Meows, I don't know. I'm not really kind of feeling this one. And the blue works for Chewy for some reason, but when it comes to sort of animal stuff, the blue just looks a little bit medical. It says it's pet care, vets and stuff, but when it comes to food, then maybe I'm expecting it to be a little bit more vibrant. Let's look at cat food brands. So if you look at just these results here, purple shows up quite a few times in these brands, but just even looking at, let's see if I can see if this will open up this here. So if we look at this here, right, so the top 10 best cat food brands, and we look at the packaging, we've got one here called Power Cat. I've never heard of Power Cat. There's Cuties and Cats. There's a lot of these brands I've never heard of. Friskies I have heard of, which is a Purina brand. You get to see how the logo works sort of in conjunction of that. What isn't there is IAMS. And the IAMS logo really stands out for me because I'm a cat owner. So, the IAMS logo really stands out to me. It's super simple, and this sort of really simplified paw print on it, which they use in the wider branding. So they've got they always have cat coming through, breaking the perimeter of the circle, and they use the toes to hold different things. It's really, really simple, and that's what I would like to see come through in the submissions, is these types of showing the logo in use. Meow Mix there, they've kind of done that so that the W is like the tail on a cat going up. Meow Mix actually kind of is sort of making me think of Luscious Magic a little bit in terms of the type there, and how they've got that balance there, and they've got a little tagline under here. But it really brings things alive when you see the logo with packaging. And that's why when I'm designing logos for clients and I'm making I'm pitching the concept, so here's the concept that I think really works well for you, I don't just show them it in white on a page, because it might not be the best way to show it. So I always create mock-up visuals of the logo in use in situations that's relevant to that client, showing it, in spaces where their product or service will be shown. And it's at that point that you go, I can see how that works as a symbol for this, and how it can work as a container for that. So, like I said, a lot of logos I do the symbol isn't related to, let's say, if it was a cat food, it's not a cat. It's just more of an abstract symbol that will be used as a container that maybe illustrations or photographs of a cat will come out of, like the IAMS one. Okay, the IAMS one is a paw print, but it could just be, they could have just done a circle, but they have cats coming out of it, and that's the running theme, and that's what people will recognize when they see the packaging, and they see, so if you see a cat coming out of a circle, people go, oh, that's IAMS. You don't even need to see the name of it. It's just, as a pet owner, a cat owner, you start to see that brand all the time, and it kind of picks it up. So Nick's saying he doesn't have cats, only one dog. I've had cats, I've had a dog, or did have a dog, passed away, last year. I have a bird cocktail as well. All sorts. I've got squirrels in the back garden. But yeah, if you are an animal owner and a pet owner, you start to notice these brands, and they will stand out. So I think I would have because we've now seen Chewy, so hey, I would go away and maybe try to rework this. There's something about this that I think could be worked into a symbol of some sort that would work. I think it was Mobius that said, it maybe looks more like a sailboat or something. So maybe something needs to be done with it, that makes it more cat-like. And then I would go away and look at different typography. Something that's going to, take you away from Chewy, but also bring in, be more like, not the same as Whiskers, but, give the same sort of the reliable, authentic, trustworthy feel that you want. So you could have the symbol reflecting the name of the cats, the chubby meows, but then have the name using typography that reflects some of the brand qualities as well as some of the personality as well. And there's lots of type out there that can do that. Just, you need to move away from this. And I'm not sure why this full stop is here in that brown color. Maybe it represents the color of the food. Cat food tends to be brown. No matter what flavor it is, it tends to be brown. But yeah, and then you kind of, like I say, we've got these different layups here. So I don't know if these were explorations. And then this is the final one. Oh, I keep forgetting to change to my desktop. So I'll go back and say, so I think this symbol has potential to be worked into something. This typography needs to be changed. Look for a different typeface that you can use that will tie into the reliable, authentic, and trustworthy. And then these look like they were maybe explorations, because there's you've got some which are centered, some which are not, some with a full stop, some not, and then the E which is tilted or not. But I think moving to a different typography selection for this, and working on this to make it more cat silhouette like, I think you could end up with something that would work with that. But it's given us here a good something to explore and chat, look at other cat brands, look at how they're all different and what they're in the personalities that they're getting across. So thanks for doing that. I'll say it again. Thank you for submitting your logo. It's a brave thing to do, because you've got people critiquing it. But I really appreciate you submitting that, Suhaib, and I also really appreciate Sushant for bringing that Luscious Magic logo to us. I do think there's definitely something in this. I keep thinking of Las Vegas, just because it's magic. I keep seeing it as a big Las Vegas, welcome to Las Vegas type sign. Can't get that out of my head. But I think if this has potential. And then the next live stream, we will be reviewing Amber's logo and revisiting Matt's logo, which is actually this one here. So this is the original one. This is the one that we reviewed the first time around. And this is an example, although so Matt actually, created a prototype. It wasn't fully functional, but it was giving us an idea of how he saw that being used. And he also gave lots of information, and that's why I kind of given Matt a second chance to submit something after the feedback. And I'm going to give him the time for us to review it, because he gave the time to really give a lot of detail and provided some mock-ups that we could look at as well. So, if you if you give us enough information, then I'm more than happy to let you go away based on feedback, have another stab at it and resubmit it, and then we'll look at it again. But when the information is a little bit lacking in the first place, it's really difficult for us as a whole, as a group, we're on these streams to give directed feedback other than visual impressions of this. There's a little bit more substance will really help us to give you more substantial and directed feedback. But I do hope that if you're watching this, Suhaib, and if you watch this, Sushant, that you find it useful. I hope you did. I'd like to thank everyone that joined today, because I know I moved this from its usual slot due to the internet connection. So I appreciate people joining on a Friday night. Well, it's Friday night for me. I'm not entirely sure what time it is for you others that are joining. It's shown that because I've moved this, that we've not had a huge amount of viewers today, but what does count for me are the people that took part in the live chat. So Nick, thank you. Mobius, thank you. Who else joined us today? Sinlo joined, and Sophia joined, and Alok joined as well. So thank you so much for joining in the chat. It means I don't feel so lonely and I'm not just talking to myself. Check out the books. You can watch this. The replay should go up fairly quickly after I stop the stream, so you can kind of go back and have a look at the books that I recommend. And as I mentioned, I do have the kit URL, which is kit.co/pixelscall, and you can check out other books which I recommend as well. And you get easy access to jump to websites to have a look at them from the kit page. So I'm going to call it a day. That's pretty much 2 hours on the dot. Thank you for joining, and I will see you in 2 weeks' time. I will post in the community tab a topic for next time. Not sure what that will be yet, but having just come back from a music festival and seeing all of the different band logos, I have done a live stream before on I think it was my top 10 band logos, but I might be more specific and I might do my top 10 heavy metal band logos or rock band logos. And I'll get you guys to tell me what yours are, and we'll look at them and have a chat about them. I love music, and I love band logos, especially heavy metal band logos, because they can be absolutely crazy. and some of them you just cannot read at all, and it's just hilarious to try and work them out. So we'll do something. I'll think about what we're going to do in 2 weeks' time. But as you can tell, my throat is going, so I'm going to call it a day. Thanks for being here, and I'll catch you in 2 weeks' time. All right, folks. You know what I'm going to say? Stay creative. Bye for now.